I got the Marvel Unlimited free trial finally because I wanted to read the Marvel Voices Snick issue with Logan's family, the Wolverine family. The first issue was written by Stephanie Williams. I'm hoping and assuming she's writing the rest of it, but it was super fun and cute. And I was upset because I don't know if anybody follows me on Twitter, but if you follow me on Twitter, I angrily tweeted at a moment, "Oh my God, my iPad is so old. I can't use Marvel Unlimited properly. I can't read the Infinity comics. I can see super old stuff, but the new update stuff, I can't read on there." So I tried on my phone because I was like, fuck, I really want to read this comic. So let's see if I can read on this tiny, device. And it turns out you can. It's so well made, that app. I had a great time reading it on my phone. And I read It's Jeff. I caught up on that, which, by the way, is the most underrated series ever. It is beautiful. So anyways, I'm having a great time with Marvel Unlimited. I'm going to read everything on my phone now.
Marvel Unlimited is great. I love Marvel Unlimited. I have it too. I use it mainly just to get little screen grabs of random things to make memes and stuff like that. And speaking of Stephanie Williams, we need to get that girl on the show soon because she wrote the Kurt Daddy article a while ago.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody, to Simply Amazing. Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are here to talk about the one, the only, the bluest of blue, the furriest of furry, but not a furry, okay? Can we just make it clear? Can we make it clear to everybody out there that, loving Kurt does not make you a furry?
Thank you!
You can be a furry and love Kurt, but you don't have to be a furry to love Kurt.
Right. You can be a furry and love Kurt, that's fine, but loving Kurt doesn't make you a furry. Do you know how many times, my siblings, I love them to death, they like to tease with me and mess with me, and that's one thing that riles me up, is when they're like, oh, well, because he's furry and has a tail, and you love Kurt, you're a furry. And that really pisses me off, because I'm again, nothing against furries, but no, I don't want that title for myself. Please, God, it's not my thing.
The whole thing with furries is they're anthropomorphic animals. They're animals who take on human characteristics. Mm-hmm. And Kurt is not that. Kurt, Beast is more of a furry character than Kurt. And we all know
that's the point.
We all know how we feel about Beast on the show. So let's not even get into it.
I love that, Lisa. So at this point, loving Kurt doesn't make you a furry, but if you love Beast, especially at this point, you are a furry. But if you love Beast in the past, you can be a good furry, quality content, yes. But if you love Beast now, being a genocidal maniac, that's not great.
I mean, here's the thing: if you if you love Beast, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to get into that right now because we got so much to talk about.
Don't listen to me, everybody. I don't know what I'm saying. I hate being called something I'm not because if you love Kurt, you're not a furry. But if you are furry and love Kurt, welcome. You are valid. We love you.
We love everybody who loves Kurt here. We even love you if you are indifferent to Kurt. We'll even take you if you don't like Kurt. If you hate Kurt, go rot. You can choke.
We're positive until a certain point. We're not toxic positivity. Okay, we know our limits. We have our boundaries to our positivity.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you hate Kurt, number one, why? Number two, if you're listening to this and you hate Kurt, I really want to know why, because I'm struggling to understand. I will understand people who are indifferent to Kurt, but I'm struggling to understand anybody who would hate him. I really am curious.
Honestly, listen, if you actually hate Kurt, you truly hate him. I've never met anybody that does.
Come on the show.
Email us, tweet at us, come on, we want to hear all about it because that's something that's truly unheard of. But even though this is a Kurt podcast, we're not going to talk, I don't think, too much directly about him today, other than our unnecessary 3-minute rant that just happened. You're welcome. Because we're talking about Immortal X-Men number 8, which is a more Mystique and Destiny focused issue, which is great. But Mystique as Kurt's mother, so there you go. As long as we connect back to him,
and also Destiny is also Kurt's mother. And by the way, I'm Lisa, and that's Lauren. Just FYI.
We're all over the place today. Oh, and I'm gonna correct myself. I'm so sorry. You're correct. I misspoke, Lisa. Mystique is Kurt's father, and Destiny is Kurt's mom. There we go.
Yes. And is Hazel who? No one knows.
That clown?
Yeah, no.
I thought Kurt left the circus.
Yeah, no. He's been like, I mean, I don't know, who, it's that, it's that Mariah Carey. I don't know her gif. Like that's what.
I don't know her. I love that.
And it's it's the Mariah Carey season, so that's absolutely accurate.
It is. It's
All
true.
right, girl,
well, for the holiday season,
bring us in.
Yes, for the holiday season, we're reading Immortal X-Men 8 to start off here, and essentially, we're looking into the past, which is really fascinating. Those of you that like read the previews and stuff, with we got the cover here with Mystique as Sherlock and Destiny is the actual Irene Adler, which has been comic canon for years. But we could see them together. It's really cool. So it starts off in New Mexico in 1943, and we've got some Mystique narration, which is interesting. I can't remember the last time we had some like really good Mystique narration, at least that I really caught on to.
I mean, it happens here and there. It depends on if she's kind of, the one telling the story. But Mystique is a very mysterious character, so we're not always privy to her thoughts.
Yeah, so it was fun to get some. So she starts off basically, kind of establishing what they were like from the beginning as a couple, or at least at this point in the 40s, right? Where, they trusted one another absolutely. However, Mystique was always curious, and Irene would always intentionally withhold information, because of her abilities and all that. And that drove Mystique crazy, she says. I couldn't stand not knowing. I had to find out something. So she's, sneaking into this facility of some sort, military facility. She shapeshifts and turns into like your stereotypical like blonde white girl in the 40s, right? Like with the war look. She kicks some ass, which is fun to see. It's weird seeing her do it as a white woman, I can't lie. Like that's just so weird with Mystique, because that's like the last thing I picture her as. I don't know about you,
but I don't know, it's like perfect because it's perfect for the moment, because like at that time, it's the exact thing to show up as to disarm those men. Because it's like, oh, this poor woman, like she just showed up. I mean, she can't do anything to harm us. So, of course they'd be disarmed by this like poor little white woman showing up and like not knowing where she's at.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think, I don't know, it definitely like brings back that image that you got back then with like that white blonde woman with the arms. What's her name? I can't remember.
It's been Rose of the Riveter you're thinking of?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And like she's got the big arm, and she's like, but you actually can see her punch some guys here. It's Mystique, of course. I don't know, it creates that image. Very interesting. But anyway, she gets in the facility. She shapeshifts into one of the military guys at one point, and then she finds Irene, right, who is still older back then. Irene's like, where's the other guy? And she's like unconscious with his friend in a cupboard. And Destiny goes, oh good, a Mystique classic. And I'm like, she's like, of course you're predictable. She just doesn't give a shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, like Destiny knows her wife.
Yes, 100%. Well, and so this issue basically sets up a lot for, I think, Sins of Sinister to come. Sinister definitely takes a huge part in this. So, Destiny's looking for him, calls him Nathan. It's Nathaniel, Mrs. Sinister. But basically, we're going to get to a point where they all meet him for the first time. And I think that's probably the most interesting thing about the issue. But we'll get to that. Because here, Mystique and Irene keep talking. They're having a conversation about Mr. Sinister and Nathaniel, all this stuff. And it's funny because at one point, Irene's like, when he dies, he'll try to take them over. A psychic broadcast. And Mystique's like, I like how you say when he dies. So yeah. It's kind of interesting that, Irene has no problem sharing that information as well. Because that's the thing too. She calculates everything she says because she knows the importance of what to say, when to say it, and how to say it.
Well, I want to go back to when she's talking about the project head is Amanda Mueller. Amanda Mueller, of course, is the Black Womb killer, aka who also worked with Dr. Essex back in the 19th century. And I don't know if you remember her from the Gambit run with Fabian Nicieza, and then what else was she in? Like she showed up in Messiah, was it in Messiah Complex she was in? I'm like looking her up on the
That's
Marvel
why
database.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm looking her up on the Marvel database because like when I saw the name, I was like, I recognize this name. Why do I recognize this name? It's like, okay, I recognize it from Gambit, but I also recognize the whole Black Womb thing. And it's like, okay, I don't fucking know. But I just wanted to mention it because, yeah, like, so Amanda Mueller is involved, but she had something to do with Essex as well. Oh, gross. Okay, this is a whole thing. Okay, I'm going to read this, and this is a whole thing. Essex entered into an arrangement with Mueller where she married a man and became pregnant, then feigned miscarriages so that Essex could take these mutant infants and study their genetic material. It seems Mueller was well compensated for her efforts. In 1891, after surviving a series of miscarriages, Amanda Mueller came under suspicion and was accused of being the Black Womb killer. Okay, this is kind of awful.
Yeah, that was something I didn't think I'd ever have to hear. Those implications are not fun.
There you go. That happened in the 1800s. So there's a little background for Amanda Mueller.
Yeah, personally hate that. Anyways,
but that also gives background to the Milbury thing because he was going by Milbury at the time as well.
Yes, yeah, that's something Irene notes is that, going by Dr. Milbury, first name Nathan, he's not subtle. Basically, she's like, of course, that's fucking sister. We know who this guy is. But yeah, so they basically do talk. And then one important, probably the most important part of this whole thing, though, is where at the end, Mystique, talking to Irene and says, but I'll bet it doesn't finish Sinister for good. He does like to cheat death. He'll find a way back. How did he manage it for a first time? And then we get some narration from Mystique of, she can never figure out how he escaped his first death. She never worked it out, but she believes Irene did. And then I like this line, even when I was a great detective, my love was always better than me. Like, so like there's clearly this inner like kind of conflict and in some ways light turmoil between these two, but they're so devoted to each other and to what they're doing this for that they're not going to address those things properly.
Okay, sorry. I'm just going back to the Amanda Mueller thing one more time. Her husband's name was Daniel Summers. I am so fucking confused. Sorry. I just going back to that for one more second. Anyway, back to the comic book.
You and the Summers. You say Summers around Lisa, and she just immediately does this. Like, not again.
No, now it's all coming together, and it's just gross. Anyway, yes, back to the comic.
Yeah, so after that, we get flashbacks because we're going to see essentially the first time Nathaniel, Mr. Sinister, died. But again, at one point, he was Nathaniel Essex, like, not with the Mr. Sinister look, which is wild to me as a fan. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So, we see Mystique, being Sherlock Holmes, literally, and Irene being the Irene Adler that helps, of course.
Which we called it, which we did a show on this several months ago. And also, I love the fact that, like, Irene has had the same hair since, like, the 1891 up until 1943, exact same hair.
Yeah, she just doesn't care. And it's so great, too, because you would think, like, Mystique would be more judgmental picky, but not with Irene. She does not give a shit.
Oh, no. Well, Irene's also blind, so, like, what does she give a shit? Like, she's not
Mystique caring about, like, Irene's looks.
Oh, yeah, but, like, Irene's like, I'm not looking at it, so why do I give a shit what you look at?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But, yeah, so they have some playful banter back and forth, after they meet with some dude to talk about the case, which is like, it's kind of cute seeing that. I wish we had more time to just see them be like flirting cute with each other without all this like extra plot. Like, I get why we have to all this plot this issue, but I just want more cute shit with them.
I would take 1,000%. I would take a Mystique Irene mystery book.
I mean, like, seriously.
Do you remember the Mystique book from the 2000s by Brian K. Vaughan?
Yes, I actually haven't read it, though, which is unfortunate on my part. I've been wondering whether or not it's worth reading.
I read it when it first came out, and I did not hate it. I'm trying to remember it. Like, it had Short Pack in it, and Short Pack was fucking awesome. Who doesn't love Short Pack? But I didn't hate it. I mean, I don't remember much about it, but like, she was like a spy, and she was playing a spy, and I don't know, It was fun. So, I mean, I would like tell me that it wouldn't be fun to have like Irene and Mystique playing detectives in the late 1800s.
Oh, 100%. Just give me like an 8-issue limited series. I'll take 12 too. Like, but like, just make a fun limited series. I think that could really work well.
And
But yeah, so eventually, regarding the case that the guy talks about, they end up going to the Milbury house where Nathaniel is, under the guise of Dr. Milbury, as mentioned earlier. And this was the first time they met, and Mystique's narration says he looked less like a vampire and more like one on whom a vampire had fed. And when you first see him open that door, it's like, this is supposed to be this crazy, scary ass, ridiculous motherfucker that we're gonna see like so many years later. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, even she says, I wouldn't have believed he was a man who would live for over a century. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But so they go under the guise of, Mystique shapeshifted into Sherlock Holmes, and Irene as, that Irene Adler.
So I want to point out that they're really starting to kind of bleed together, not just like the myth of late 1800s London, but also kind of the reality of late 1800s London, because you have like, Sherlock Holmes, which is mythology, right? There was no real Sherlock Holmes. But then they also talk about Saucy Jack, which is, of course, Jack the Ripper, that they mentioned him in this little article. And of course, there's going to be another character that they don't talk about him, but they're going to, like, it's going to kind of introduce him a bit, and I'll mention him in a minute. But they're really starting to blend together mythos, which I think is really interesting here. So we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, so yeah, you have like the Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler here. You have Jack the Ripper being mentioned, and then we'll have another character being mentioned soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that you pointed that out. And it feels kind of seamless. You're absolutely right. Like, I didn't even think about that. I'm just like, yep, this is all a perfect world that makes complete sense to me. But yeah, absolutely. And so it's kind of funny because they talk to, Nathaniel for a while, and he's clearly, he's sick still. He was attacked. They're trying to get more information about that. But it's just hilarious because as they're walking out, again, Mystique is Sherlock. And as they're walking out, Irene looks at Mystique and goes, do you want a clue? As like, she knows the answer. And Mystique's just like, absolutely not. Like, Mystique's just like, she's got that pride of like, I'm figuring this the fuck out. Don't tell me.
And can I just say that Blue's Clues has ruined clues for all of us, because whenever I see that word, a clue, I always think Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
Blue's Clues. And like, so I grew up, my high school, our mascot is the tiger. And so in my neighborhood where I grew up, where my parents still live, there's like little tiger paw prints all over the place, like where there's little signs on like the neighborhood. In the neighborhood, there's little signs where kids are graduating with little paw prints on it. And so when I walk around with my niece Emerson in the neighborhood, she always points at like the paw prints and is like, it's a clue. So like literally in June, we're walking around the neighborhood of my parents' house, and like we can't go down the neighborhood without my niece going, it's a clue. So yeah, it's like Blue's Clues has ruined a generation, or helped a generation. It depends on how you look at it. So,
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love Blue's Clues. I mean, that was my show as a kid. Steve, especially. I used to have the little handy dandy notebook, and I had like a Steve polo shirt of all things. Yeah. It was fantastic.
And to answer everybody's question, Steve is not dead. He did not die. He did not have a drug overdose. He did not do drugs. He's actually doing great.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's on TikTok. So all you people that are like, oh my God, I swipe through TikTok all the time. You can find him on TikTok. He makes thirst traps now, which is absolutely wild. Steve from Blue's Clues makes thirst traps. So have fun with that. But back to the story here, of course. So after they leave the house, it seems like Mystique kind of does her own thing, has her own plan. It's really interesting because she narrates, that the 19th century was hell, creating so much fabric from flesh is such waste.
Okay,
go ahead.
This is something that like is making me have to come to terms with something I never wanted to have to come to terms with. Which is her having to create fabric from her flesh, and like having to like, I just think of when you have a weird hangnail, or like when your skin is folded in a weird way and uncomfortable. And I just think of like, she has created an entire dress with like crinoline and everything out of her skin. I'm like, this is fucking awful. This sounds disgusting. It just, all of it. I kind of wish I never had to consider it.
No, that's a really good point. I think a lot of us, um, especially when we think of shapeshifters, we're kind of oblivious to the fact that if you take it pretty literally, you're absolutely right. As it said here, they have to make fabric from her literal flesh, and just like, how do you get extra to make extra? I don't know, man, but yeah, that is very unsettling. I think that not only is it cool they mention it there just for, that kind of reminder to us as readers what shapeshifting entails, but also it adds to, creating the disgusting environment and what that time period was like, especially for women. Like, it's disgusting, it's uncomfortable, it's like, oh, why? Like, and so here, she's dressed in, the fabric from the 19th century, this big, crazy dress and everything. And she's literally walking and thinking, come on, try to murder me. Try to murder someone. It's freezing and I'm naked. Then the scream. I got what I wanted. And then she transforms, she shapeshifts back into herself, with a gun, and she's running.
Yep. And here we meet the Mr. Jekyll to Essex's Dr. Hyde. So
yep.
the next character that we kind of are introduced in this like kind of crossover mythos is the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde that the Essex character is being created. Which this is kind of really cool. Is so comic books have like created this like serialized nature of literature that had that had already kind of existed, but not in the same way that comic books had. Like, it's not like there had ever been anything serialized over the course of, a century, like the way comic books have. But there are like characters that have been told stories over and over and over again. And it's really interesting that they're taking like these characters that had kind of transcended their own stories, and they're bringing them into the comic books in their own way, which I really appreciate.
Right. Well, and what's interesting too is that so at this point, Mystique chases him down, the Mr. Sinister Hyde, essentially, and she gets to that house, and Irene's basically waiting there, I guess, because she's like, I don't need you. I found him all by myself, and Irene's like, I know, well done, but I am curious, and so Mystique just barges into the house where Nathaniel was. Just barges in, and he's like, not like this, and the next thing he knows he's back to his, Nathaniel form. And he's like, you're Essex men. And it's like, that's a new term. I really like this part too. So when he says you're Essex men, Mystique's like, yes, I know. Now I'd say something. Back then, if we corrected every quote man, and that's in quotations, we'd have never had any time for anything else. So she's like, we're not going to waste time correcting this guy and saying things like mutants or anything like that.
Oh, no, like the Essex men thing. It's like, you've named a whole race of people after yourself, basically. Like,
right.
Essex. Yeah, like, I mean, like narcissistic, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, that's really... I mean, I guess it's kind of the similar that Xavier named the X-Men after... But he calls it the X gene. I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting.
It's what men do. Let's be real.
But the thing is, he's named a whole race of people after himself, and he's not even a part of the race.
Yeah, he's fun like that. But anyway, so then we get the reference to, he says, I should have never trusted the Egyptian, which is of course Apocalypse. So Apocalypse had given Nathaniel Essex many gifts, and Sabinurs, which is Apocalypse's original name, essentially, philosophy is not one with any great use for altruism. So basically, Apocalypse was not a nice guy, of course.
No, Apocalypse is a dick. We all know that.
I love him though, but he's a dick.
I mean, he's a dick.
The way you said that's like, he's a dick, and then you're like, he's a dick. Okay, Lisa, we're gonna move on from that, but you're right.
I mean, yeah.
So basically, they all sit down, and like, again, Nathaniel's back to looking very sickly and tiny and not sinister at all. But basically, he's talking about how he can't die yet. He has to, be around for the 20th century. And Irene says, I see probable futures. I fear you're correct, which means, yep, unfortunately, we have to let you live, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, it gets more interesting because Nathaniel goes, good. Then the following century, the 21st, will be the real trick. By then, by my math, Charles's monsters will be upon us. And Irene goes, Darwin? And Nathaniel goes, no, Babbage, what the fuck that means. Another idiot, Charles. Will I never be free of annoying men named called Charles? And honestly, that's a mood. I'm kind of with him on that. Can we be free?
So I just looked up who Charles Babbage is. He's a mathematician. I don't fucking know anything about it. So he is a mathematician. He's the father of the computer. Oh, okay. So I get it now. Okay. So he's talking about machines. So he's talking about the machines. He's talking about the fight with Orcus. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, because he talks about the Byron daughter who tried to draw a map of mathematics to make it think. The machines they're birthing, they'll be grander geniuses. In time, the gears of clockwork minds will crush us all. So, yep. So he's talking about his escape and how he's going to survive and what's going. And then he references them as the X-Men again. Why are you naming mutants after you? I don't know, dude. Get over yourself. We're tired.
That is exactly it. He just, yeah, exactly. Like, nobody is asking you to name anything after yourself. You're an idiot.
I think this moment is really important to remember as well, especially with the way current Krakoan stuff has been going, is Nathaniel goes, one day there will be a war between people like us and people who are not people. We must be on the same time. And Irene decks him. I mean, straight up punches him straight in the face. And she goes, I'll never be on the same side as men like you, which is very interesting considering past Immortal X-Men issues where she said, they have to work together. They have to be on the same side. And then back here at this point, she's like, fuck no. So I'm wondering if, again, even if she's presenting a united front to him now, if she's going to go back to this, these former feelings she had enough to deck him in the face and be like, so we're on the same side until we don't have to be anymore. And then she's going to completely turn on him.
Well, I think that Irene knows that Sinister is not... Here's the thing. I think that Irene knows that Sinister is the kind of person, like, Sinister's that like, keep your friends close and your enemies closer kind of person. Like, she knows that she always needs to stay close enough to him to know what he's doing, because he's a very dangerous person. And which is apparent based on, at the very end of this issue where she sees that he has at least 4 different versions of himself that are loose somewhere. There's which I think is kind of interesting. They're like based on the suits of playing cards. So there's a diamond, which is the one that we're all familiar with, right? The diamond one. But there's also a club, a heart, and a spade. So we haven't seen the club or the heart of the spade. We only know the diamond.
Yeah, I want to go back to even before that reveal, because that's pretty much the end of the issue where, before that, she decks him, and they said, we'll give you a chance, so they put him in mental asylum essentially and say, you will either get better here and your Egyptian gifts will settle, or you're going to die. And there will be no more murdered on streets of London. So they're like, this is interesting too, I think, for Mystique and Destiny's characters. They're essentially good guys here, quote. Like, even though they're not afraid to do, I would say kind of anti-heroes almost, because they're not afraid to do what it takes to get what needs to be done, but they're, happy to get somebody off the streets. Like, even Mystique in her dialogue, after Irene says, when we next meet, I hope you're a better man, to Nathaniel, Mystique goes, oh God, I loved her so. Another solved case for the great detective. He'll never murder another again, I thought. I've never imagined Mystique being like, thank God I got a bad guy off the streets that won't murder. Like, that's wild to me.
Well, like, okay, so, but think of it this way, right? Look at it this way. She just murdered a police officer right before she said that, right?
Yeah.
So, And like, I look at it a different way. Like, yeah, maybe Mystique is like, trying to protect the streets, but is Mystique trying to protect the streets, or is Mystique trying to remove dangerous people from the streets who might open up the public to knowledge that mutants exist, and then put her and Destiny in danger?
Right. And I think, no, and that's a very good point. I think here, well, and also to add to the morality, even though she is killing a man, which is, typically a no-no with good guys, quote, or heroes, when she does it, she does narrate a man who takes a bribe, which is the police officer, because she offers a bribe to him and he's going to accept it. She goes, a man who takes a bribe is by definition not trustworthy. And to me, that also states understanding of morality, one, and two, also states a moral compass. And so she knows, like you said, that you can't trust this guy. He's not going to keep his mouth shut. You can pay him off now, but if somebody else offers him the right amount to open his mouth, he's going to open his mouth. So she is doing it as a form of protection here, I think. And yeah, it's a very different Mystique here in terms of she's not just like, I'm all villain, which we've gotten a lot less of that, with the Krakoan era. She's still kind of a bitch and does what she wants. But this is kind of proving that at some point she had a pretty strong moral compass. Even if she does things, she has to justify killing somebody, right? She kills somebody but justifies it. So more anti-hero for sure.
Yeah, I think you can see a lot of it just comes from self-preservation, and it comes from like just when you can't live out as you are, as the person you actually are, because who you are is not, you're not allowed to be who you are, then you need to make very, very calculated decisions about how you live and how to express who you are, and you have to make specific decisions about what you allow and what you'll do. And I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think Mystique is a different person. I think she's just making decisions based on how she's able to live her life in order to be.
Oh, no, absolutely. And people evolve. That's the thing. Imagine if you were alive from the 19th century to today. You're probably going to be a lot different than you were. And Mystique probably was alive much, earlier than the 19th century, right? Like, we don't know, but she clearly is up to herself. She's completely in control of her power. She knows what's going on. So, like, she's lived a long time. She's going to evolve. She's going to change. Or, at least do different things based on what happens. She's going to adapt. That's how you survive,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
But anyways, I really love the narration of this issue. I love getting in Mystique's head a bit. Kieran Gillen does such a good job writing the internal narration for all of these characters in Immortal X-Men. And it just makes me so sad for her, though, almost. Like, I'm sad for Mystique because, she narrates that. I never did find out exactly how Sinister came back. I don't know if Irene knows. And, like, that seems very genuine. I'm sure she'd have told me if it was important. And it's like, how is the fact that he's cloning himself not important? Like, and now I'm like, why has Irene hidden that from her and for so long? Like, what, especially after the earlier issues of Immortal X-Men where she sees probable futures and Mystique's not in them. What?
I mean, I think we all know that Irene has never not told Raven things that she... So I think that what we're heading towards, there's two things we could be heading towards. Number one, either we're heading towards a reckoning where we're going to head towards something where it's going to be a reckoning in Irene and Raven's relationship, where Irene is not going to tell Raven something very important and they're going to come to blows over it. Or we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that Irene always tells Raven what she needs to know when she needs to know it, and Raven always trusts her. And I kind of would prefer it to be the second, because I love them together and I don't want them to break up and anything to happen to them.
I don't think you can break up a couple like that. That's the thing. It reminds me. So I might have mentioned it once or twice on the pod before, but I used to watch Legends of Tomorrow.
Did you? Did you used to watch
it?
I
did, Lisa. And one of my favorite, there were so many things about the show I love. One of my favorite things is that, once Ava Sharp was brought on the show in season 3, and it worked out, for her to become Sarah Lance's love interest, and it was well received, and they got to evolve. Eventually, by like season 5, it got 7 seasons as of right now, they were like, so like the writers and producers up front in interviews, on the record said, we have no interest in breaking them up. There's no reason for that. We can find other ways to grow and also challenge their relationship in ways without forcing a breakup or that being the only thing to create something different in a relationship. And so I think with Mystique and Destiny, I think it's even more, that applies to them in such an even larger way. Like, they've known each other for literally hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You can't just break them up over some argument you'd see on the CW, typically.
Well, no, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
You can't do that. But I would be interested to see, like, at some point, and I would want this to work out happy by the end of it, but, Mystique go up to Irene. At one point she says, Irene, I've trusted you with everything. I still trust you implicitly. You've told me everything. Why have you never told me this? What does this mean? And Irene might not be ready to say anything yet. And eventually Irene kind of does have to break her own boundary down. And because, like you said, she's always in control in this. That's the thing I catch in this as well, is that Mystique doesn't have control in the relationship. She has no choice, basically, but to trust Destiny. And so what happens when Mystique one day actually challenges that, and not even in a, like, it's all or nothing way, but in a, hey, I should have known this, or I need to know this now. What the hell's going on here? And Destiny is going to have to open up a little bit more, because you said earlier, and you're absolutely right, Mystique's a very mysterious character, but I think in their relationship with Mystique and Destiny is a more mysterious one, ironically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But I think Mystique trusts Destiny implicitly, and I think Mystique trusts that
100%.
Destiny is never mysterious for a bad reason.
Right. But that's the thing that gets me with that last narration on the last page of this issue, or the second to last page of this issue, is when she says, I don't know if Irene knows, but I'm sure, right? When we talk like that, I'm sure she'd tell me. And then, like, you're just saying that you're the friend that knows. They haven't said shit to the person. You're like, oh, I can't say anything. Yeah. But so I do see that as like a point of contention. And I hope if and when that's ever addressed, it'll be well written. And kind of like how Mystique trusts Destiny implicitly, I trust Kieran Gillen implicitly to write it well. So Kieran, I know you're listening. Take that. Please don't abuse your power. Don't abuse the trust we've given you.
Please, Kieran, we know you're listening. So please. Well, this has been another fantastic episode. How many issues are left of Immortal X-Men? Like 3 or 4?
I don't know. Does it have an ending? I haven't, to my knowledge at least, I haven't seen an official ending, because I know Sins of Sinister is coming up, but I'm not sure they're ending any books before then yet. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know. I didn't even pay attention, so who knows? Whatever. So anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll be reading it until the end. So I don't know.
I'll be waiting for the Immortal X-Men issue that won't happen, but I want, which will be when the Darkholm Wagner family has their full reunion finally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll be waiting until 3077. So.
Karen, I'm trusting you implicitly, please.
Please, Karen, you're listening. We know. Please, for Lauren's 88th birthday, please.
Hey. We can't even do 69th. I mean, come on.
Nice.
Thank you.
Right, well, everybody, if you are enjoying yourself and you'd like to join us for a podcast again, or you want to listen in, or you want to see us on Twitter, or you want to tell us how much you love us, or you want anything else, come find us on our website. We have all of our socials there, our Twitter, our Twitch, our anything else, whatever, our Instagram, our Facebook. It's simplyamazingpod.com. You can find all of our socials there. You can come tell us that you love us. You can come tell us that you hate us. You can come tell us that you're indifferent to us. In fact, that's what we want to hear the most. We want to hear how much you don't care about us. Great fact. Tell us happy holidays. Tell us that you don't really care. We want to hear it, please. Yes. Lauren, yes. Tell them where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. Before I do that, I was just going to add, listen, if you want to mess with Lisa a little bit, which is always fun for me to watch,
oh my God.
Feel free to just, tweet at us, send her email, whatever. Hey, guess what? Nocturne's coming back soon. Marvel said so. And you'll give her a jump scare.
I swear to God.
She's going to kill me for this later, y'all. I will not survive.
Can I just tell you that bitch in Sins of Sinister is not Nocturne. It is not even Nocturne adjacent. It is just not made to make me angry. So yeah, stop. Enough.
It's okay.
I literally have a wall of Nocturne behind me that everyone can look at, and I love Nocturne so much, and I just want my girl back so badly. I want her back so badly.
Man, I really had a nerve today. I'm so sorry.
I'm just gonna go cry for the rest of the day. That's fine.
It's okay. Well, while you're crying,
Merry Christmas to me.
Right. You all can find me on Twitter at friendlymBHDBI, and you can follow my other YouTube channels, Twitter at MBHD Comic Show. That's where I talk indie comics and stuff. We also have a Discord now, which has been fun. So you're welcome to join that and join the Nightcrawler Discord. That's always fun. If you are all about Kurt, which I know all of you listening are, unless you hate him and you're coming on the pod. Listen, if you hate him and you listen to our pod, you have to come on the pod and tell us about it.
Yes. But if you hate him and you listen to the pod, that means you love us, and we love you for that. So that's fine too. So anyway, if you're listening and you love us, great. If you're listening and you hate us, that's great too. I'll be under my bed crying. That's fine. I don't even have it under the bed, but that's okay. You are still simply amazing.